Welcome to a new episode of the Power Talk, the official podcast powered by ROHM Semiconductor Europe. My name is Katrin Hases-Schmidt. I'm working as a content marketing manager at ROHM Semiconductor Europe, and today's topic revolves around women and tech. While women have already caught up in many technical areas, such as the life sciences sector, they are still a minority in the field of engineering. My guest today, Justine Hörmann, Head of Marketing Communication at our company, knows the tech industry very well, as she has gained 15 years of marketing experiences in this sector already. And Justine is very successful in her field of profession. Some years ago, for example, one of her B2B campaigns, which she created for LG Electronics, was awarded with a European Excellence Award. Since 3 years ago, she's working for ROHM Semiconductor Europe, where she has been very prosperous as well. For example, she has received 4 trophies for ROHM print ad designs within different publications. Justine, first of all, a warm welcome and thank you for being my guest today.
Thank you very much for having me.
Looking at your vita, you always seem to have a special connection to the tech industry. Could you tell us more about your fascination for tech, please? How did this affinity evolve?
The affinity for tech, I think, evolved partly by accident. I did not always choose to go for the complicated, but it just happened. During my studies already, I had a big portion of curiosity for complex products and complex trends. And so I even picked my internships at big technology companies. In the beginning, they were more in the chemical field, like Bayer and Evonik, for example. But then I moved to the electronics area. At first, I was more into consumer electronics. And this is, let's say, a bit more the lighter or brighter side of things. And then by today, we are very much inside of the electronics products and with our semiconductor products, very deep into technology, much deeper than this was the case before. But I still enjoy the challenge of communicating complex issues and transporting them in an understandable way.
From your experience and personal observations, can you think of reasons why still so few women enter the engineering industry?
I would rather like to go straight to the point of the good news and mention that the situation has changed noticeably in the past few years. And I think it's a very good tendency that so many government initiatives like Girls' Day, MINT in Germany, or STEM in the UK are encouraging more and more girls to try out whichever profession they would like to choose for their future. And so more and more women are finally picking a study in the tech sector. I think like from a business perspective here in Rome, we are really lucky because in the past we have also welcomed quite some female engineers. So the team gets more and more diverse, which is very nice for us to work with. And also among the journalists that I regularly talk to, I see that there are more and more female editors. And this was something that was not imaginable a few years back. So there's really a lot of things going on, and I think rather than always relating to why we have or why it took us so long to finally catch up with the men, I think it's good to see that finally we're getting there.
So how was it for you to work in a male-dominated sector? Have you ever encountered prejudices?
Marketing for itself is kind of a biotope for female specialists and managers. So I have to admit that mainly my department colleagues have always been like, let's say, half and half male, half female. And we didn't really have this big issue with communicating. However, I see that talking to my engineering colleagues, that they have faced other challenges when starting their career, and they were faced with prejudices more often. So I think it makes sense to talk to them in particular when it comes to the engineering surrounding. For me personally, I really only rarely had any issues with the colleagues I co-work with. And I couldn't say that there were any prejudices towards my profession or the style of work that I have.
In this context, which relevance does networking with other women from the sector have for you?
In my opinion, networking these days is really a very, very important topic in the personal, professional environment. Not only is there so many new options that you can use to keep in touch with people you have met, like LinkedIn or Facebook or you name it, but also it really has become more and more important to keep these connections and be in a dialogue with the people to evaluate your skills and also try to evolve and improve in many areas. Interaction, I think, with colleagues from the same field can be very inspiring, but also talking to especially women in other companies, maybe even from totally different departments, is sometimes helpful to understand how they are facing their daily challenges and how we can learn from each other. So I think for us women, the task is really to use the skills in terms of networking that we are given and support each other more. This has not been, maybe not been perfect in the past, and men have done this very, very well for many, many 100 years. So by now, I think it's on us to improve, until we finally reach real equality.
I totally agree. And speaking of special connections, has there been a role model in your professional life you would like to tell us more about?
I think I haven't had like one mentor in my career. I have had several people that helped me along the way. And I also admit that it was men as well as women that I could talk to and that would, either let me learn from the daily routines, like how they deal with the scope of work, how they organize their work, or also, the tricks of good journalism, for example. And I'm happy to look back that I actually had a few people to always support me and give me advice in terms of choosing wisely. But I think mentoring is really something that we, like in our society, should grow more and give especially girls the chance to look up to role models that have done or have achieved something outstanding. And I think it is very important to also have female role models if you really want to strive for a career in a certain area.
And speaking of role models, the two of us are working in the same team. And in this connection, I noticed that you are in fact also a role model for all of us because you create an atmosphere of trust. You give us the freedom we need to develop our own projects, but at the same time, you always take the time whenever we need your advice. And in this connection, looking back so far at your professional career, which key advice would you give other young women entering the tech industry?
First of all, thank you very much for these kind words. You really make me blush. Thank you. And looking at an advice, I think this is very difficult to say, but for us coming from the marketing sector, I think the best advice is to not be put off by technology, to not be, insecure or frightened, and just ask all the questions that you have on your mind, especially towards the technical colleagues, engineers, but also all the other product experts that might come along. I think there's no shame in asking, and if you really want to get into a topic deeply and be able to communicate about it to the outside of a company, then you really need to understand it in its details. And for this reason, I think ask all the questions that you have and just be brave. And in the end, I think it will pay off. However, this is for sure just the marketing view of things. I admit that obviously in engineering, this will be a totally different answer that you will get, because like the touch points to other departments are different, and also the technical knowledge and the depth is totally different. So I think you should speak to one of our engineers, female engineers, and ask them as well what would be their guidelines or maybe advice for the next generation.
In this connection, I have some good news for you, because we are actually planning, of course, to interview some of our female engineers to present the female face of tech, and I'm already looking forward to my next podcast guests. And in this sense, I would like to thank you very much for this inspiring talk, and I'm looking forward to great projects.
Thank you very much for having me.